1. Blood and Sand. The Afghan sun beat down mercilessly as Staff Sergeant Dominic Reeves surveyed the abandoned village through his scope. Sweat trickled down his temple, catching in the week-old stubble that covered his weathered face. 6 months into his 4th deployment, and the desert still felt alien to him. Movement, 10 o'clock, whispered Corporal Malik beside him. Dominic adjusted his position slightly, finger hovering near the trigger. His training had refined him into something beyond an ordinary soldier, one of the elite Navy SEALs, deadly and precise. But beneath the hardened exterior beat the heart of a man who counted the days until he could return to his wife Vanessa and their 5-year-old daughter Lily. Just a dog, he muttered, relaxing slightly. His squad had been tracking a local warlord for 3 days. Intelligence suggested the man was supplying explosives to insurgents targeting American bases. Sarge, Malik said, hesitation in his voice. Got another letter from home? Dominic nodded, a rare smile cracking his stern expression. Lily's learning to write. Drew me a picture of our house with all of us standing outside. What he didn't mention was Vanessa's increasingly brief messages. Over 14 years of marriage, they'd weathered 3 previous deployments, but this time something felt different. Her messages had grown perfunctory, lacking the intimacy they once shared. He'd written it off as the strain of separation, but a nagging doubt had taken root in his mind. You're a lucky man, Sarge, Malik said, having someone waiting for you. Before he could respond, their radios crackled to life. Reven 1, this is base. Priority message, over. Dominic frowned, keying his mic. Reven 1, receiving. Staff Sergeant Reeves, report back to base immediately for emergency leave processing. Family emergency. Details to follow upon arrival. The world seemed to contract around him. Family emergency. The 2 words every deployed soldier dreaded. 12 hours later, he was on a transport plane headed stateside, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. The base commander had been frustratingly vague, only that there had been an incident involving his family, and that Vanessa was physically unharmed. He tried calling home, but got no answer. Dominic's thoughts drifted to his younger brother, Jeffrey. They'd grown up in rural Pennsylvania, inseparable despite their 3-year age gap. While Dominic had enlisted at 18, drawn by a sense of duty and purpose, Jeff had bounced between jobs and relationships, never quite finding his footing. When Dominic married Vanessa, he'd asked Jeff to be his best man. She's going to keep you in line, Jeff had joked during his speech. Someone has to, since I won't be around to do it anymore. The memory now felt tainted by his growing unease. In the last few months, Jeff had been staying at their house in Virginia Beach. Dominic had suggested the arrangement himself. Jeff needed a fresh start after another failed relationship, and Vanessa could use the help with Lily in maintaining the house while Dominic was deployed. His squad leader, Lieutenant Commander Thorne, had pulled him aside before departure. Reeves, whatever you're walking into, remember your training. Control your emotions, assess before acting. Dominic had nodded, but as the plane carried him closer to home, he felt something primal stirring within him, an instinct that transcended his military discipline. The flight landed at Norfolk late evening. No one was waiting for him. He took a taxi to his neighborhood, the familiar streets now seeming strangely hostile. As the cab pulled up to his house, Dominic noticed Jeff's motorcycle parked in the driveway alongside Vanessa's SUV. He paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. The windows glowed with warm light, and he could hear laughter drifting through the evening air. Inserting his key into the front door, Dominic stepped into his home for the first time in half a year. The scent hit him first, his brother's cologne, the same brand he'd worn since high school. Then voices from the kitchen. He'll never suspect a thing, Vanessa was saying, her voice light and amused. Poor, loyal Dom. You're terrible, Jeff replied, laughing. What if he finds out? What's he going to do? He's halfway around the world playing hero. Dominic moved silently through the hallway, his SEAL training instinctively kicking in. The kitchen doorway framed a scene that stopped his heart. Vanessa leaning against the counter, her belly slightly swollen beneath her dress, Jeff's hand resting possessively on her hip. When they noticed him, Vanessa's face drained of color. Dom, you're home. Why didn't you call? Her hand dropped protectively to her stomach. Jeff stepped away from her, guilt flashing across his face before he attempted a smile. Hey, bro, surprise homecoming. Dominic set his bag down slowly, his mind calculating and analyzing as if he were in a combat situation. Base said there was a family emergency. The lie hung in the air between them. There was no emergency, except perhaps his unexpected return. Daddy. Lily's voice broke the tension as she ran down the stairs and into the entryway. She hesitated briefly before rushing to him, wrapping her arms around his legs. He knelt down, embracing his daughter while keeping his eyes on his wife and brother. Up close, he could see the changes in Lily. She seemed older, her eyes holding knowledge no 5-year-old should possess. I missed you, sweetheart, he said softly. Lily pulled back, her small face serious. Mommy said you might not come back. She said soldiers die in war. I promised I'd come back to you, didn't I? Dominic replied, his heart breaking at the implications of what his daughter had been told. Vanessa stepped forward, attempting to take control of the situation. Lily, honey, it's past your bedtime. Why don't you go upstairs while we talk to Daddy? As his daughter reluctantly headed upstairs, Dominic stood, the weight of betrayal settling over him like armor. His brother wouldn't meet his eyes, and Vanessa's hand remained protectively over her stomach. The pieces clicked into place with devastating clarity. Chapter 2, Betrayal's Weight. Dominic stood in his kitchen, a stranger in his own home. The silence stretched between them, taut as a tripwire. How far along are you? He finally asked, his voice unnervingly calm. Vanessa's hand remained on her belly. For months. The timing confirmed what he already knew. He'd been deployed for 6. Were you ever going to tell me? Dominic shifted his gaze to his brother, who had the decency to look ashamed. Dom, man, I don't know what to say, Jeff began. Then don't say anything. Dominic cut him off, turning back to Vanessa. Was this happening before I deployed, or did you wait until I was gone? Vanessa's expression hardened, her initial shock giving way to defiance. You're barely home, Dom. For deployments in 8 years. What did you expect? Loyalty? Basic human decency. He gestured toward Jeff. With my brother? Jeff stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. Look, we never meant for this to happen. But you're gone all the time, and Vanessa was lonely. So you decided to comfort her. How noble. Dominic's voice remained steady, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. The floorboards creaked overhead, reminding him that Lily might be listening. He lowered his voice. And what's this about telling our daughter I'm going to die? Vanessa at least had the grace to flush. I was upset. I shouldn't have said that to her. No, you shouldn't have. Dominic moved to the living room window, looking out at the quiet street. His neighbors' lives continued uninterrupted while his world imploded. I need some air. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Dom, wait, Vanessa called after him. We need to talk about this. He turned, fixing her with a stare that made her step back. There's nothing to talk about tonight. Outside, the night air did little to cool the rage building inside him. He walked aimlessly through the neighborhood, his mind cycling through memories now tainted by betrayal. The photos Vanessa had sent of her and Jeff taking Lily to the zoo. The times his video calls had gone unanswered because they were having a movie night. His phone buzzed. A text from Jeff. I know you're angry. Let's talk tomorrow when heads are cooler. Dominic ignored it, continuing his walk until he found himself at a small park where he used to take Lily. Sitting on a bench, he tried to process what had happened and what would come next. Around midnight, he returned to the house. The lights were off except for a lamp in the living room, where he found Vanessa waiting for him. Lily's asleep, she said. Jeff went to a hotel. Considerate of him, Dominic replied, the sarcasm evident. Vanessa sighed, running a hand through her dark hair. I know you're hurt. Hurt doesn't begin to cover it, Vanessa. I didn't plan this, she insisted. Neither did Jeff. It just happened. Things don't just happen. You made choices. Both of you. He sat across from her, maintaining his distance. So what was the plan? Keep me in the dark? Raise my brother's child as mine? Vanessa looked away. We hadn't figured everything out yet. I heard you in the kitchen. He'll never suspect a thing. Poor, loyal Dom. The words tasted bitter on his tongue. You weren't supposed to hear that, she whispered. Clearly. The next morning brought little clarity. Dominic woke early, his body still on Afghanistan time. He found Lily already awake, drawing at the kitchen table. Morning, princess, he said, kissing the top of her head. She looked up at him with solemn eyes. Are you mad at Mommy and Uncle Jeff? The innocent question caught him off guard. Why do you ask that? I heard yelling last night. She continued coloring, adding a blue sky to her picture of a house. Uncle Jeff sleeps in Mommy's room sometimes when you're not here. Dominic's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice gentle. Lily, sweetheart, what else did Mommy tell you about me being away? The little girl hesitated, then repeated words that would haunt him. Mommy says you're going to die in war so Uncle Jeff can be my new daddy. The crayon snapped in Dominic's hand. Before he could respond, Vanessa entered the kitchen, freezing when she saw them together. Lily, go get dressed for school, she said quickly. After their daughter left, Vanessa turned to him, her expression pleading. Dom, listen. When were you planning to tell me? He asked, his voice deadly quiet. After the baby was born? Or were you going to wait until my next deployment and then serve me with divorce papers? I was confused, she said. Scared. And now? She hesitated. I don't know. Jeff wants us to be together, but what? You're having second thoughts now that I'm home. Before she could answer, his phone rang. It was his commanding officer, checking in on the family emergency. Dominic stepped outside to take the call, explaining vaguely that he was handling a personal situation. When he returned, he found Vanessa and Lily preparing to leave for school drop-off. We'll talk more later, Vanessa said, ushering Lily toward the door. Left alone in the house, Dominic began to search for answers. In Vanessa's desk, he found prenatal appointment cards, birth plan notes, and a journal. Against his better judgment, he opened it. April 15th, Dom deployed again. It gets harder each time. Jeff's been so supportive, stopping by with groceries and helping with Lily. May 30th, Jeff moved into the guest room today. It makes sense since he's here all the time anyway. Lily adores him. July 4th, something happened last night. Jeff and I crossed a line. I should feel guilty, but instead I just feel alive for the first time in years. The entries continued, chronicling their affair and eventually the pregnancy. The most recent entry, dated just a week ago, made his blood run cold. We've decided to tell Dom after the baby is born. Jeff thinks we should be honest about the baby being his. I'm not so sure. Dom might fight for custody of Lily, and I can't lose her. Maybe it's better if he thinks the baby is his? Jeff says I worry too much. Don't worry, he thinks it's his baby. I joked, and we laughed about it. It's terrible, I know, but what choice do we have? Dom's world is the military, not us. He left us long before we betrayed him. Dominic closed the journal, a cold clarity washing over him. Every SEAL mission required intelligence gathering, analysis, and strategic planning. This would be no different. That evening, when Vanessa returned without Lily, apparently dropped at a friend's house for a sleepover, he was waiting in the living room. We need to talk, he said. About the future. Vanessa sat cautiously, maintaining distance between them. I've been thinking all day. This is such a mess, Dom. Yes, it is. His voice remained level. I think you should call Jeff. Ask him to come over. We all need to have a conversation. She looked surprised but nodded. Okay, I'll call him. As she dialed, Dominic watched her, his expression unreadable. His SEAL training had taught him patience. To wait for the perfect moment to strike. And in that moment, looking at the woman who had destroyed everything they had built together, something shifted inside him. Lieutenant Commander Thorne's words echoed in his mind. Control your emotions, assess before acting. But as Jeff's motorcycle rumbled into the driveway 30 minutes later, Dominic felt the last threads of his restraint beginning to unravel. Chapter 3, The Gathering Storm. Jeff entered the house like a man approaching his execution. His usual confidence had evaporated, replaced by nervous energy that manifested in fidgeting hands and darting eyes. Thanks for coming, Dominic said, gesturing toward the couch where Vanessa sat. Sure, yeah, Jeff mumbled, choosing to stand instead. Look, Dom, I know you must hate me right now. Hate requires emotion, Dominic interrupted. I'm not feeling particularly emotional at the moment. The controlled calm in his voice made both Jeff and Vanessa exchange worried glances. Sit down, Jeff. Let's talk about what happens next. Jeff reluctantly perched on the edge of an armchair. What do you mean, what happens next? Dominic remained standing, unconsciously adopting the stance he used when briefing his team before missions. You're having a baby together. Decisions need to be made. Vanessa spoke up, her voice cautious. I thought maybe we could all take some time to think things through. You just got back, Dom. It's a lot to process. I've had enough time, Dominic replied. I want to know what you two planned while I was gone. Jeff cleared his throat. We didn't really have a solid plan. Bullshit, Dominic cut him off. Vanessa's journal says otherwise. Color drained from Vanessa's face. You read my journal? Did you really think I wouldn't look for answers? Dominic asked, his tone hardening. You were going to let me believe the baby was mine, at least initially. Then what? Break the news later? Or keep up the lie forever? Jeff stood up. This isn't productive. You're angry, and you have every right to be. But threatening us isn't going to solve anything. Who's threatening? Dominic asked, eyebrow raised. I'm trying to have a civilized conversation about how we move forward. Moving forward means divorce, Vanessa said bluntly. I'm sorry, Dom, but our marriage was over long before this happened. The words hit him like physical blows, but he maintained his composure. And Lily? She stays with me, of course, Vanessa replied automatically. You're deployed more than you're home. What kind of life would that be for her? The kind where she doesn't believe her father is going to die so her uncle can replace him, Dominic countered, his voice deadly quiet. Jeff stepped between them. This isn't getting us anywhere. Dom, you need time to cool off. We all do. I'm perfectly cool, Dominic said, though the temperature of his gaze suggested otherwise. I think Jeff's right, Vanessa said, standing. Let's table this for now. You're still on emergency leave, right? How long do you have? 2 weeks, Dominic answered. Unless I extend it. Okay, Vanessa nodded. Maybe I should stay with Jeff for a few days, give you some space. Take Lily with you, Dominic said, the words clearly difficult for him. I don't want her caught in the middle of this. After they left, Dominic sat alone in his house, surrounded by family photos that now felt like artifacts from someone else's life. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Thorne, his commander answered on the third ring. Sir, it's Reeves. I need to request an extension on my emergency leave. Everything all right, Staff Sergeant? Dominic stared at a photo of Vanessa, Jeff, and himself from their wedding day. No, sir. But it will be. The next few days passed in a blur of legal consultations, bank visits, and strategic planning. Dominic consulted a divorce attorney who advised him on custody options and financial preparations. He contacted his financial advisor to secure his assets, and he reached out to former SEAL teammates now working in private security. On the 4th day, he arranged to see Lily at a local park. Vanessa brought her, standing awkwardly to the side as father and daughter played on the swings. Higher, Daddy. Lily squealed as he pushed her. Hold on tight, Princess, he warned, smiling despite the circumstances. Later, as Lily explored the playground, Vanessa approached him. She's missed you, she said. I missed her too. Dominic watched his daughter climb the slide. Has she asked about what's happening? Vanessa sighed. She knows something's wrong. She's perceptive. Like her mother, Dominic said, no warmth in the observation. Vanessa studied him. You seem different. Distant. War changes people, he replied simply. So does betrayal. Dom, I never wanted to hurt you. He finally turned to look at her directly. Yet here we are. As they prepared to leave, Lily hugged him fiercely. When can I come home, Daddy? The question broke through his carefully constructed armor. Soon, sweetheart. Daddy just needs to take care of some things first. That evening, he met with Caleb Foster, a former SEAL who now ran a private intelligence firm. So your wife and brother, Caleb summarized after Dominic explained the situation. That's rough, brother. They sat in Caleb's office, the walls lined with security monitors and encrypted computers. Caleb had left the military after an injury, channeling his skills into the private sector. His company specialized in corporate security, but occasionally took on personal cases for fellow veterans. I need information, Dominic said. Everything you can dig up on both of them. Financial records, communications, social media, all of it. Caleb raised an eyebrow. You planning something illegal, Dom? Because I can't be part of that. Nothing illegal, Dominic assured him. Just preparation. Preparation for what exactly? Dominic's expression was unreadable. Justice. A week into his leave, Dominic received a text from Jeff asking to meet privately. They arranged to meet at a quiet bar near the waterfront. Jeff arrived first, already nursing a whiskey when Dominic slid into the booth across from him. Thanks for coming, Jeff said, unable to meet his brother's eyes. I wasn't sure you would. What do you want, Jeff? Dominic asked, declining the server's offer of a drink. Jeff took a long sip, gathering courage. I want to make this right somehow. Dominic's laugh was humorless. How exactly do you plan to do that? I don't know, Jeff admitted. But Vanessa and I have been talking. She thinks maybe we should move away after the baby is born. Give you space to. To what? Heal. Move on. Dominic leaned forward. You're having a child with my wife, Jeff. My wife. There's no making that right. Jeff ran a hand through his hair in frustration. What do you want from me, Dom? An apology? Because I am sorry. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Jeff hesitated. I've always loved her, Dom. Since college. But she chose you. The revelation hit Dominic like a physical blow. All these years, I tried to move on. You know I did. All those relationships, trying to find someone who made me feel the way she does. Jeff looked utterly miserable. When you suggested I stay with her while you were deployed, it was torture at first. But then things changed. So it's my fault? Because I trusted you both. Dominic's voice remained controlled, but his eyes had turned to ice. No, that's not what I'm saying. Jeff protested. Look, I know I betrayed you in the worst possible way. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends. But Vanessa and I, we're having a baby together. That's reality now. Dominic was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. You're right. That is reality. Jeff blinked, surprised by the concession. So what now? Now we figure out how to coexist, Dominic said, his tone neutral. For Lily's sake, if nothing else. Relief washed over Jeff's face. I was thinking the same thing. Kids need stability. As their conversation continued, Dominic appeared to soften, asking questions about the baby and listening as Jeff talked about their plans. To anyone observing, it might have seemed like the beginning of a difficult reconciliation. But beneath Dominic's calm exterior, calculations were being made. Intelligence gathered. Weaknesses identified. As they parted ways, Jeff hugged him awkwardly. Thanks for hearing me out, bro. This means a lot. Dominic returned the embrace briefly. Family is family. Watching Jeff drive away, Dominic's expression changed, the mask of acceptance dropping to reveal the cold determination beneath. His phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Got what you asked for. You'll want to see this. The storm that had been gathering since his return was about to break. Chapter 4. Counterintelligence. Caleb's office was bathed in the blue glow of multiple computer screens when Dominic arrived. Manila folders were spread across the desk, each labeled with names and dates. You said this was urgent, Dominic said, settling into a chair. Caleb nodded, sliding a folder toward him. Found something interesting about your brother's finances. He's been moving money around, significant amounts. Dominic opened the folder, scanning bank statements and transaction records. These withdrawals, almost $50,000 over the past 3 months. In cash, Caleb added. And there's more. Your wife opened a new bank account 2 months ago. Jeff's been depositing money into it regularly. A muscle twitched in Dominic's jaw. They're planning to run. Looks that way. Caleb pulled up surveillance photos on his computer. They've been visiting real estate offices in Colorado, Denver area. The betrayal cut deeper than Dominic had expected. Despite everything, he'd assumed Vanessa would at least fight for custody of Lily. But these preparations suggested otherwise. They were planning to take his daughter and disappear. There's something else, Caleb said hesitantly. Your brother's been in contact with a man named Trey Blackwell, former private contractor with a questionable reputation. What kind of contact? Multiple meetings, phone calls. Blackwell specializes in creating new identities. The kind people use when they don't want to be found. Dominic's expression darkened. They're not just running. They're planning to vanish completely. Seems like it. Caleb looked uncomfortable. Dom, whatever you're planning, be careful. These preparations suggest they're more desperate than you thought. Dominic stared at the surveillance photos, memorizing details. I need to accelerate my timeline. That evening, Dominic called Vanessa, his voice carefully modulated to sound defeated and resigned. I've been thinking, he said. You're right. We need to end this marriage cleanly. Vanessa's surprise was evident even through the phone. Oh, I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. I'd like to see Lily tomorrow, he continued. Take her for the day. Is that okay? Of course, Vanessa replied, relief coloring her tone. She's been asking about you. The next day, Dominic picked up his daughter, taking her to the Virginia Aquarium. As they watched sea turtles glide through azure waters, Lily's small hand clasped in his, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Daddy, are you and Mommy getting divorced? Lily asked suddenly, her eyes serious beyond her years. Dominic knelt to her level, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes grown-ups have problems they can't fix, sweetheart. Because of the baby in mommy's tummy? He maintained his composure with effort. Partly. But that's not your fault, okay? Mommy and I both love you very much. Uncle Jeff says we might move to a new place, Lily continued. He says we'd have mountains and snow. Is that something you want? Dominic asked gently. Lily shrugged. I'd miss my friends. And you? You'll never lose me, Lily, he promised, pulling her into a tight embrace. No matter what happens. While Lily explored a touch pool with starfish and sea urchins, Dominic received a text from Caleb. They've booked flights to Denver. Next Tuesday, 5 days away. That night, after returning Lily to Vanessa's temporary residence, Jeff's rented condo near the beach, Dominic drove to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Using a key he kept hidden in his dog tags, he unlocked a unit registered under a different name. Inside were supplies only a SEAL would have, specialized equipment, encrypted communication devices, and various items that would prove useful in the coming days. He selected what he needed, loading a duffel bag. As he worked, his phone rang. Commander Thorne. Reeves, HQ is asking about your return date. Need an answer by tomorrow. Dominic paused. Sir, I'm requesting an extension. Family situation is still complicated. Thorne's sigh was audible. Look, Dom, off the record, whatever's happening, handle it right. Men like us, we can't afford to lose control. Too much training, too many skills. Understand. Perfectly, sir. The following day, Dominic visited his lawyer again, finalizing power of attorney documents and updating his will. The lawyer, a former JAG officer named Beverly Zimmer, watched him with concern. These are significant changes, Staff Sergeant. Are you sure about this? Dominic's gaze was steady. Very sure. Later, he met with his financial advisor, transferring assets and securing accounts that couldn't be accessed without his physical presence and multiple forms of identification. As evening approached, he drove to the beach, parking where he could observe Jeff's condo. Through binoculars, he watched Vanessa and Jeff moving around the kitchen, preparing dinner. The domesticity of the scene burned like acid in his chest. His phone buzzed with an update from Caleb. They've hired movers. Scheduled for Monday, day before the flight. Dominic typed back. What about Blackwell? Meeting with Jeff tomorrow. 2 p.m. at the marina. Perfect. The next morning, Dominic followed Jeff at a distance as he drove to the marina. The meeting with Blackwell took place on a small yacht, private and isolated. Dominic observed from a nearby fishing pier, using a directional microphone to capture their conversation. Everything's ready, Blackwell was saying. New IDs, credit histories, background documentation. Premium work. And it's untraceable. Jeff asked anxiously. That's what you're paying for, Blackwell assured him. Once you're established in Colorado, no one will connect you to your previous lives. Jeff passed him an envelope. The final payment, as agreed. Pleasure doing business, Blackwell said, pocketing the cash. One more thing. What about the kid's father? Any chance he'll cause problems? Jeff hesitated. He's military. Deployed most of the time. By the time he figures out we're gone, we'll be established under new identities. Better hope so, Blackwell warned. Men with that kind of training can be persistent. Don't worry, Jeff said with unearned confidence. Dom's always been predictable. Play by the rules, follow orders. He won't know what hit him. After the meeting, Dominic returned to his empty house, reviewing the intelligence he'd gathered. The picture was clear. Jeff and Vanessa planned to disappear with Lily and their unborn child, using new identities to prevent him from ever finding them. He opened his laptop, accessing files Caleb had sent, travel itineraries, moving schedules, and most importantly, the details of Blackwell's identity operation. Everything he needed to know exactly where they would be and when. That night, he called Vanessa again. I'd like to see Lily on Monday, he said, before I head back to base. Oh, Vanessa sounded flustered. Monday is a bit hectic. We have some appointments. Just for an hour, Dominic pressed. I ship out Tuesday morning. The lie came easily. After a moment's hesitation, she agreed. Fine. Early afternoon would work. Perfect, Dominic said. I'll pick her up at noon. As he hung up, he caught his reflection in the window, a man transformed by betrayal in his pursuit of justice. His SEAL instructors had drilled into him the importance of control under pressure, of channeling emotion into tactical advantage. Now, those lessons would serve a different purpose. His phone chimed with a final text from Caleb. All systems in place. You sure about this? Dominic responded with a single word, affirmative. The operation was a go. Chapter 5. Shadows and Silhouettes. Sunday morning dawned clear and bright, a stark contrast to the darkness gathering within Dominic. He spent the day finalizing preparations, checking and double-checking his timeline against the intelligence Caleb had provided. By evening, he was ready. He drove to a motel on the outskirts of town, paying cash for a room under a false name. The place was nondescript, the kind that didn't ask questions and didn't require ID. Perfect for his needs. Inside the room, he laid out his equipment, surveillance gear, communication devices, and items he'd retrieved from his storage unit. Nothing overtly illegal, but collectively enough to execute his plan. His phone buzzed with a text from Jeff. Can we talk? Vanessa said you're shipping out Tuesday. Want to clear the air before you go. Dominic considered ignoring it, but strategic thinking prevailed. Better to maintain the illusion of acceptance. Sure. Tomorrow after I see Lily? Jeff's reply came quickly. Works for me. My place, 2 p.m. See you then, Dominic responded, knowing full well the meeting would never happen. He spent the night reviewing Blackwell's operation, analyzing potential variables and contingencies. The man was professional but predictable. His methods followed patterns Dominic had encountered during intelligence operations overseas. Monday morning, Dominic drove to a coffee shop near Jeff's condo, arriving early to observe the street. Right on schedule, movers arrived at 9 a.m., beginning the process of loading furniture and boxes into a large truck. Vanessa supervised, clipboard in hand, while Jeff made multiple trips carrying smaller items to his SUV. Neither noticed the nondescript sedan parked half a block away or the man watching through tinted windows. At 11:45, Dominic called Vanessa. I'm running a little late, he said. Can we push Lily's pickup to 12:30? Vanessa sounded distracted. Actually, that works better for us too. Great. See you then. Dominic hung up, watching as Jeff checked his watch and hurried to his car. Right on time. Heading to meet Blackwell for the final identity handoff. Dominic followed at a safe distance as Jeff drove to the same marina as before. Once again, Blackwell was waiting on the yacht. The exchange was brief. An envelope passed from Blackwell to Jeff, containing what Dominic knew were their new identity documents. As Jeff returned to his car, Dominic circled back toward the condo. The moving truck was just pulling away when he arrived, Vanessa waving them off before heading back inside. The timing was perfect. At exactly 12:30, Dominic knocked on the condo door. Vanessa opened it, looking harried but forcing a smile. Dom, hi. Lily's just getting her shoes on. He stepped inside, noting the emptiness of the space. Most of their possessions were gone, leaving only essential items for their last night before flight. Moving day? He asked innocently. Vanessa faltered. Just reorganizing some things. The condo feels cluttered. Before Dominic could respond, Lily came bounding down the hallway. Daddy. He scooped her up, hugging her tightly. Ready for our adventure, princess? As they prepared to leave, Dominic turned to Vanessa. I'll have her back by 5 if that works. Perfect, Vanessa said, clearly relieved at his continued cooperation. In the car, Lily chatted excitedly about seeing dolphins at the aquarium again. Dominic listened, his heart heavy with what was to come. He drove not to the aquarium, but to a small private airfield where a chartered plane waited. Are we going flying, Daddy? Lily asked, her eyes wide with excitement. We sure are, sweetheart, Dominic replied, forcing cheerfulness into his voice. A special adventure. At the airfield, they were met by Mia Kendrick, a former intelligence officer who now worked with Caleb. She knelt to Lily's level, her smile warm and genuine. Hi Lily, I'm Mia. Your dad says you like dolphins. As Mia engaged Lily with a stuffed dolphin toy, Dominic pulled out his phone and composed a text to Vanessa. Lily and I won't be back at 5. Or ever. Don't worry, she thinks it's her baby. The Navy SEAL training activated. He paused, finger hovering over the send button. The message echoed the words he'd overheard that first night. Vanessa's cruel joke about his ignorance. Part of him wanted her to feel the same pain he had. But Lily was watching him, her innocent face turned up in a smile. He deleted the message, composing a different one instead. I know about Denver. About Blackwell. About everything. Lily is safe with me. The courts will decide her future, not you. He sent it, then turned off his phone. "Ready to go, princess?" he asked, taking Lily's hand. They boarded the small plane, Mia joining them as they prepared for takeoff. Lily was thrilled by the adventure, peering out the window as they climbed into the clouds. "Where are we going, Daddy?" she asked. "To see Grandma and Grandpa," Dominic answered truthfully. His parents' ranch in Montana would be their sanctuary for now, remote, secure, and far from Vanessa and Jeff's planned escape route. Meanwhile, back at the condo, chaos erupted. Vanessa received Dominic's message just as Jeff returned from the marina. Her scream brought him running from the garage. "He took her," she cried, showing Jeff the message. "He knows everything." Jeff's face drained of color. "That's impossible. How could he?" "It doesn't matter how," Vanessa shouted, already dialing 911. "He kidnapped our daughter." But as she reported the abduction, complications arose. Dominic was Lily's legal father, with full parental rights. Without a custody agreement in place, he had as much right to take her as Vanessa did. "Ma'am, this sounds like a domestic dispute," the dispatcher explained. "Since both parents have equal custody rights at this point, it's not classified as kidnapping." "You don't understand," Vanessa insisted. "He's military, special forces. He's dangerous." "Has he threatened you or your daughter?" the dispatcher asked. Vanessa hesitated. "Not exactly, but if you're concerned about custody arrangements, you'll need to contact family court." After hanging up, Vanessa turned on Jeff in fury. "This is your fault. You said he wouldn't figure it out until we were gone." "We need to call Blackwell," Jeff said, already pulling out his phone. "He might know what to do." But Blackwell, when contacted, offered little comfort. "I create identities, I don't handle domestic disputes. If he knows about me, you're compromised. Deal's off." "What about the money we paid you?" Jeff demanded. "Non-refundable," Blackwell replied coldly before hanging up. As night fell, Dominic's plane touched down at a small airstrip near his parents' ranch. His father, Frank Reeves, a Vietnam veteran with a weathered face and steady hands, waited beside an old pickup truck. "Grandpa," Lily squealed, running to him as soon as they deplaned. Frank scooped her up, his stern expression softening. "There's my girl." Over Lily's head, he gave Dominic a questioning look. "It's complicated, Dad," Dominic said quietly. "I'll explain everything." At the ranch, Dominic's mother Martha welcomed them with warm hugs and hot chocolate for Lily. After getting his daughter settled in her room, kept ready for visits that had been too infrequent, Dominic joined his parents in the kitchen. "You want to tell us what's going on, son?" Frank asked, his tone making it clear this wasn't really a request. Dominic explained the situation in stark, military terms: the betrayal, the planned disappearance, his decision to bring Lily to safety. Martha's eyes filled with tears. "That poor child. And Vanessa. I never would have thought." "Jeff was always the wild one," Frank said, shaking his head. "But this? With his brother's wife? What happens now?" Martha asked, practical as always. Dominic's expression was resolute. "I filed emergency custody papers through my lawyer. Given the circumstances, their plans to flee with false identities, the court should rule in my favor, at least temporarily." "And your deployment?" Frank asked. "I've requested reassignment to training duties. Less deployment, more stability for Lily." Dominic ran a hand over his face, suddenly looking exhausted. "It's not ideal, but it's the best I can do right now." "You did the right thing, bringing her here," Frank assured him. "Whatever happens next, we've got your back." That night, as Dominic checked on his sleeping daughter, his phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Vanessa and Jeff hit with fraud charges. Blackwell rolled over on them when federal agents came knocking. "They're not going anywhere." Dominic allowed himself a grim smile. Phase 1 complete. Now for Phase 2. Chapter 6. The Adversary's Move. The Montana dawn broke crystal clear, painting the mountains in hues of purple and gold. Dominic sat on the porch of his parents' ranch house, coffee steaming in his hands as he watched the sunrise. For the first time in days, he felt a moment of peace. It was short-lived. His phone rang. Beverly Zimmer, his attorney. "They filed a countersuit," she reported without preamble, "claiming you're mentally unstable from PTSD and a danger to Lily." Dominic's grip tightened on his mug. "On what grounds?" "They're citing your erratic behavior in taking Lily across state lines without notice, your military service in combat zones, and statements from Vanessa about concerning behavior she allegedly witnessed." "Fabrications," Dominic said flatly. Of course, Beverly agreed. But it complicates things. Judge Harmon has scheduled an emergency hearing for Wednesday in Virginia. You'll need to be there, with Lily. After ending the call, Dominic found his father in the barn, repairing a tractor. Bad news? Frank asked, noting his son's expression. Dominic explained the situation, watching his father's weathered face harden with each detail. Sounds like they're playing dirty, Frank observed, wiping grease from his hands. They're desperate, Dominic replied. The fraud charges from Blackwell's operation have them cornered. Frank studied his son. What's your plan? I need to get back to Virginia for the hearing. Bring Lily with me. Your mother and I are coming too, Frank said, his tone making it clear this wasn't negotiable. That little girl needs all the support she can get. Arrangements were made quickly. By afternoon, they were airborne again, this time on a commercial flight to Norfolk. Lily, excited by another airplane adventure, remained blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around her. They checked into a hotel near the courthouse, Dominic setting up a security system in their adjoining rooms that would alert him to any attempted entry. His SEAL training had made him hypervigilant, especially now. That evening, as Lily watched cartoons with Martha, Dominic received a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Neutral ground. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Wilson Park. Jeff. Against his better judgment, Dominic agreed to the meeting. Before leaving the hotel the next morning, he embraced Lily tightly. Be good for Grandma and Grandpa, okay? Daddy has an errand to run. Frank followed him to the door. You sure about this? Dominic nodded. I need to know what they're planning. Wilson Park was quiet at mid-morning, most people at work or school. Jeff sat on a bench near the duck pond, his usual confident posture replaced by slumped shoulders and nervous energy. Dominic approached cautiously, scanning the area for any sign of a trap. Finding none, he sat beside his brother, maintaining a careful distance. Thanks for coming, Jeff said, his voice hoarse. I wasn't sure you would. What do you want? Dominic asked coldly. Jeff ran his hands through disheveled hair. We're in trouble, Dom, serious trouble. These fraud charges. Blackwell gave them everything. Names, dates, payments. That tends to happen when you conspire to create false identities. It was Vanessa's idea, Jeff said quickly. After she got pregnant, she was afraid you'd take Lily. Dominic's laugh was humorless. Throwing her under the bus already? Classy Jeff. I'm not. Jeff broke off, sighing. Look, I'm not here to make excuses. What we did was wrong. All of it. So why are you here? Jeff hesitated. I want to make a deal. Dominic raised an eyebrow, waiting. Vanessa's lawyer thinks we can beat the fraud charges if we get character witnesses, show we were under duress. Jeff leaned forward. If you would testify that you were abusive, that Vanessa was afraid for her safety and Lily's. You want me to perjure myself? Dominic interrupted, incredulous. Claim I abused my wife and daughter? Just say you have PTSD, that you've been unstable since your last deployment. Jeff's desperation was palpable. In exchange, we'll drop the custody fight. You can have Lily. The offer hung in the air between them. Dominic studied his brother's face, seeing not the confident man who had stolen his wife, but the frightened boy who had always taken shortcuts through life. Let me get this straight, Dominic said finally. You want me to destroy my military career, my reputation, and potentially face perjury charges, so that you and Vanessa can avoid fraud charges for crimes you actually committed? Put that way, Jeff's proposal sounded as absurd as it was. It wouldn't have to ruin your career. Just a statement about being under stress. No. Dominic stood, towering over his seated brother. Here's what's going to happen. You and Vanessa are going to face those fraud charges. And at tomorrow's custody hearing, you're going to tell the truth about your plans to disappear with my daughter. Dom, be reasonable. I am being reasonable, Dominic said, his voice dangerously quiet. If I weren't, you'd be at the bottom of the Chesapeake Bay by now. The implied threat wasn't lost on Jeff, whose face paled. You wouldn't. I've killed for my country, Dominic said matter-of-factly. What makes you think I wouldn't kill for my daughter? He walked away, leaving Jeff stunned on the bench. It was a bluff. Dominic would never actually harm his brother, no matter the provocation, but Jeff didn't need to know that. Returning to the hotel, Dominic found his father waiting in the lobby. How'd it go? Frank asked. About as expected, Dominic replied, filling him in on Jeff's proposal. Frank's expression darkened. That boy never did understand consequences. He understands fear, though, Dominic said. And right now, he's afraid. Back in their suite, Dominic received a call from Caleb. Got something interesting, his friend reported. Been monitoring their communications as requested. They just reached out to a man named Victor Darius. Dominic frowned. Should I know that name? Former Army Ranger turned private investigator. Specializes in finding people who don't want to be found. The implications were clear. Vanessa and Jeff were preparing contingencies in case they lost the custody hearing. Keep tabs on them, Dominic instructed. Let me know if they make any moves. That night, as Lily slept peacefully in the adjoining room, Dominic prepared for the custody hearing. Beverly had provided detailed notes on Judge Harmon, a family court veteran with a reputation for favoring biological parents but a low tolerance for deceit. His phone buzzed with another text from Jeff. Vanessa's willing to negotiate custody arrangements. 50-50 split. No criminal charges on either side. Dominic didn't bother responding. The time for negotiations had passed when they planned to disappear with his daughter. Morning brought a flurry of activity, dressing Lily in her favorite blue dress, fielding calls from Beverly about last-minute details, and preparing his parents for the intensity of the coming proceedings. Remember, he told them as they drove to the courthouse, no matter what Vanessa or Jeff say about me in there, keep calm. Frank nodded grimly. We know who you are, son. That's all that matters. The courtroom was smaller than Dominic had expected, the atmosphere tense as they filed in. Vanessa sat at one table with her attorney, a sharp-featured woman in an expensive suit. Jeff sat behind them, looking anywhere but at Dominic's family. Judge Harmon, a stern-faced woman with silver hair, called the proceedings to order. Before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. This court's primary concern is the welfare of the minor child, Lily Reeves. All other considerations are secondary. The hearing began with opening statements from both attorneys. Vanessa's lawyer painted a picture of a troubled military man, traumatized by war and prone to unpredictable behavior. Beverly countered with evidence of Vanessa and Jeff's fraud scheme and plans to flee with Lily. When called to testify, Dominic presented a calm, measured demeanor, answering questions directly and honestly. He acknowledged his military service had taken him away from home, but emphasized his commitment to Lily's welfare, including requesting a transfer to training duties to ensure stability. Staff Sergeant Reeves, Judge Harmon asked, "Why did you take your daughter to Montana without informing her mother?" "Your Honor, I had concrete evidence that my wife and brother were planning to flee the country with my daughter using fraudulent identities," Dominic replied steadily. "I felt I had no choice but to ensure Lily's safety until legal proceedings could determine custody." When Vanessa took the stand, her testimony became emotional, tears flowing as she described her fear of Dominic's increasingly erratic behavior. But under Beverly's cross-examination, inconsistencies emerged. When pressed about the fraud charges, Vanessa's answers became evasive. "Mrs. Reeves, did you or did you not pay a man named Trey Blackwell to create false identities for yourself, Mr. Jeffrey Reeves, and your daughter Lily?" Beverly asked. Vanessa glanced at her lawyer before answering. "It wasn't like that. We were scared. Please answer the question, Mrs. Reeves," Judge Harmon instructed. After a pause, Vanessa admitted, "Yes, but only because Dom was." "Thank you. That's sufficient," the judge interrupted. "Next question, counselor." As the hearing continued, Jeff was called to testify. He approached the stand nervously, looking haggard and defeated. When asked about their relationship and the pregnancy, he confirmed what everyone already knew. Then Beverly asked the question Dominic had been waiting for. "Mr. Reeves, prior to Staff Sergeant Reeves' return from deployment, did you and Mrs. Reeves discuss taking Lily and moving away under new identities?" Jeff hesitated, his eyes flickering between Vanessa and Dominic. A moment of truth suspended in time. "Yes," he finally admitted. "We did." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Judge Harmon called for order, then addressed both legal teams. "I've heard enough. This court will recess for 1 hour, after which I will render my decision." In the courthouse hallway, Dominic stood with his parents and Lily, who was growing restless from the long morning. "How about some lunch, Princess?" Martha suggested, leading Lily toward the cafeteria. As they walked away, Dominic noticed Jeff approaching cautiously. "Can we talk?" his brother asked, keeping his distance. Frank stepped forward protectively, but Dominic placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "It's okay, Dad. Make it quick." Dominic told Jeff once they were alone in a quiet corner. Jeff looked utterly defeated. You've won. You know that, right? The judge saw right through us. This isn't about winning, Dominic replied. It's about protecting my daughter. I know. And for what it's worth, Jeff ran a hand over his face. I'm sorry. For everything. The apology rang hollow after everything that had happened, but Dominic nodded curtly. Is that all? Jeff hesitated. Vanessa's not going to give up, even if she loses today. I'm counting on it, Dominic said, his voice cold. Tell her something for me, will you? He leaned closer, speaking softly enough that only Jeff could hear. If she comes after my daughter again, what happens next won't involve courts. The threat landed exactly as intended. Jeff stepped back, nodding once before walking away. When the court reconvened, Judge Harmon delivered her ruling. Temporary full custody was granted to Dominic, with supervised visitation for Vanessa. The fraud charges would proceed in criminal court. This arrangement will be reviewed in 6 months, Judge Harmon concluded, during which time I expect both parties to demonstrate their commitment to Lily's welfare above all else. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered, drawn by the unusual case involving a Navy SEAL. Dominic guided his family quickly to their waiting car, shielding Lily from the cameras. As they drove away, Martha held Lily close, stroking her hair as the little girl dozed, exhausted by the day's events. It's not over, Frank observed quietly from the driver's seat. No, Dominic agreed, watching the courthouse recede in the side mirror. But round 1 goes to us. Chapter 7, Tactical Maneuvers. 3 months after the custody hearing, Dominic had settled into a new routine. His transfer to BUD/S Training Command in California had been approved, allowing him to maintain his SEAL career while providing stability for Lily. They had a small house near the base, close enough to the ocean that they could hear waves breaking at night. Lily had adjusted remarkably well, thriving in her new school and making friends quickly. The court-appointed therapist who saw her weekly reported positive progress, though she still asked about her mother occasionally. The supervised visits with Vanessa had been tense, but civil. Under the watchful eye of a court appointee, mother and daughter would spend 2 hours together twice a month. Dominic always stayed nearby, though out of sight. Life had begun to normalize, until the morning Dominic received a call from Beverly. Vanessa's filed for modification of custody, his attorney reported. She's claiming her life is stable now, that the fraud charges have been reduced to misdemeanors through a plea deal, and that Lily belongs with her mother. Dominic's jaw tightened. When's the hearing? 3 weeks from Thursday. But there's more. She's moved to California. San Diego. Claims it's to be closer to Lily. The news sent a chill through him. Vanessa had followed them across the country, not the action of someone who had accepted the court's decision. After ending the call, Dominic contacted Caleb, who had continued monitoring Vanessa and Jeff's activities. I need everything on Vanessa's move to California, Dominic instructed. When she decided, who helped her, where she's living, all of it. Already on it, Caleb assured him. Initial findings suggest she moved 2 weeks ago. Rented a place in La Jolla. Expensive neighborhood. How's she affording that on a teacher's salary? That's the interesting part, Caleb said. She's come into money. Significant amount deposited to her account last month. $250,000. Dominic frowned. Source. Working on it. Traced through 3 different banks so far. Stay on it, Dominic said. And Jeff? Is he with her? Negative. He's still in Virginia, keeping a low profile. But they communicate daily. After hanging up, Dominic checked the time. He had 2 hours before needing to pick up Lily from school. He used them to implement additional security measures around their home, installing new sensors and cameras. That evening, as they built a sand castle together on the beach behind their house, Lily looked up at him with her mother's eyes. Daddy, is Mommy coming to visit soon? Dominic carefully patted sand onto their castle's tower. Yes, sweetheart. This weekend, remember? Lily nodded, returning to her architectural efforts. Ashley at school says some kids have 2 houses. One with their mom and one with their dad. Dominic's hand stilled. Some kids do, yes. Would I have to have 2 houses? He chose his words carefully. Right now, you live with me. Mommy comes to visit you here. But what if I lived with Mommy sometimes too? The innocent question twisted something in his chest. We'll see, princess. Right now, this is your home. Lily seemed satisfied with the answer, But the conversation left Dominic unsettled. Had Vanessa been planting ideas during their supervised visits? Or was this just normal curiosity from a child? The next day, Dominic met with Beverly to prepare for the upcoming custody modification hearing. They sat in her San Diego office, reviewing Vanessa's petition. She's built a strong case on paper, Beverly admitted. New job teaching at a prestigious private school in La Jolla. Stable housing. Character references from colleagues. No contact with Jeff, at least officially. It's all for show, Dominic argued. She followed us to California, Beverly. That's not coincidence. Beverly nodded. I agree it's suspicious. But judges like to see parents trying to maintain relationships with their children. Her move might actually work in her favor unless we can prove ulterior motives. What about the money? $250,000 doesn't appear out of nowhere. We're working on subpoenas for her financial records, Beverly assured him. But these things take time. As Dominic left the meeting, his phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Found something. Can you meet? They arranged to meet at a coffee shop near the base. Caleb arrived with a tablet and a grim expression. Trace the money, he reported quietly, sliding into the booth across from Dominic. It came from a shell company called Meridian Ventures. And Meridian is owned by a holding company that traces back to Victor Darius. Dominic's blood ran cold. The private investigator. The one who specializes in finding people. Caleb nodded. There's more. Darius has connections to an underground network that helps people disappear, legally or otherwise. He's suspected of helping at least 3 non-custodial parents flee the country with their children in the past decade. None have been found. The implications were clear. Vanessa hadn't given up on her plan to disappear with Lily. She'd just changed tactics. She's playing the long game, Dominic realized. Get modified custody, establish a routine of having Lily part-time, then vanish during her parenting time. That would be my assessment, Caleb agreed. And with Darius's resources, they could be anywhere in the world before you realized they were gone. Dominic's SEAL training kicked in. Assess, plan, execute. We need proof of her connection to Darius. Something concrete for the court. Working on it. But these people are careful. That weekend, Dominic observed Vanessa's supervised visit with Lily with new eyes. She appeared the perfect mother, attentive, loving, engaged with her daughter's stories about school and friends. I have a new house now, she told Lily during their lunch at a local park. It has a bedroom just for you, with purple walls, your favorite color. Lily's eyes lit up. With stars on the ceiling? Just like at our old house, Vanessa confirmed, smiling. Maybe someday you can come see it. The court's supervisor, a middle-aged woman named Rita, made notes but offered no objection to the conversation. To her, it sounded like normal mother-daughter talk. But to Dominic, watching from a distance, it was preparation, priming Lily for a transition that would end with her disappearance. After the visit, he approached Rita. Miss Torres, could I have a word? Rita, who had supervised all of Vanessa's visits, nodded. Of course, Staff Sergeant. I'm concerned about some of the conversations today, he began carefully. Specifically about Vanessa's new house and Lily potentially staying there. Rita's expression remained neutral. That's fairly standard, Staff Sergeant. Non-custodial parents often maintain spaces for their children and talk about future visits. Given the circumstances of our case, the previous attempt to flee with false identities, I'm uncomfortable with this line of discussion. I understand your concern, Rita said diplomatically. But nothing said today violated the court's parameters for these visits. Mrs. Reeves is permitted to maintain a relationship with her daughter, which includes discussing her life. Dominic recognized the dead end. Without proof of Vanessa's continued intention to abduct Lily, his concerns would seem like paranoia or, worse, an attempt to alienate his daughter from her mother. That night, after Lily was asleep, Dominic implemented the contingency plan he'd been developing. He contacted former SEAL teammates now working in various capacities around the world, establishing a network of emergency resources should Vanessa succeed in taking Lily. He also reached out to Commander Thorne, who had continued to serve as a mentor. Sir, I need your counsel, Dominic admitted, explaining the situation. Thorne listened silently before responding. This Victor Darius, he's the key. If Vanessa has hired him to help her disappear with your daughter, that's criminal conspiracy. We need proof. Then get it, Thorne said simply. You're a SEAL, Reeves. You're trained to gather intelligence under hostile conditions. Just remember, Stay within the law. Cross that line, and you could lose everything. The advice was sound, but easier said than done. Darius was a professional who knew how to cover his tracks. The breakthrough came 3 days before the custody modification hearing. Caleb called with news. Darius is in San Diego. Checked into the Westgate Hotel downtown under his own name. Dominic frowned. That seems careless for someone in his line of work. Unless he wants to be seen, Caleb pointed out, creating a legitimate paper trail of business travel. Is Vanessa meeting him? Not yet, but he's reserved a table at the hotel restaurant for dinner tonight. Table for 2. It was the opportunity they'd been waiting for. Dominic arranged for his parents, who had been visiting to help with Lily, to stay with her for the evening. Then he and Caleb set up surveillance at the Westgate. Dominic positioned himself at the hotel bar, angled to observe the restaurant while remaining inconspicuous. Caleb monitored the hotel's entrances from his car outside, alerting Dominic when Vanessa arrived at precisely 7 p.m. She looked different, confident, polished in an expensive dress and heels. She greeted Darius like an old friend, kissing his cheek before taking her seat. From his position, Dominic couldn't hear their conversation, but their body language spoke volumes. Darius appeared to be giving instructions, Vanessa nodding attentively. At one point, he passed her a small envelope, which she quickly secured in her purse. Dominic snapped discreet photos using a modified watch, standard intelligence gathering equipment. After an hour, Vanessa and Darius parted ways, with Darius remaining at the hotel while Vanessa left. Follow her, Dominic instructed Caleb through their communication link. On it, Dominic remained at the hotel, tracking Darius as he returned to his room. 20 minutes later, Caleb reported back. She went straight home, but she made a call on the way. Couldn't hear the conversation, but she seemed excited. Mentioned everything's set, and after the hearing. The timing confirmed Dominic's suspicions. Whatever Vanessa and Darius had planned, it was scheduled for after the custody modification hearing, likely assuming she would be granted some form of unsupervised visitation. The next morning, Dominic presented the evidence to Beverly, photos of the meeting, documentation of the financial transfer from Darius's shell company to Vanessa, and Caleb's report of her conversation afterward. Beverly examined everything carefully. This is compelling, but still circumstantial. We can't prove what was in the envelope or what they discussed. It's enough to raise serious doubts about her intentions, Dominic argued. I agree, Beverly said. And combined with the history, it might be enough to convince Judge Harmon to maintain the current arrangement. But we need to be prepared for all outcomes. The night before the hearing, Dominic sat with Lily on their small patio, watching the sunset over the Pacific. She was building a Lego set, her small face scrunched in concentration. Daddy, she said suddenly, do you think the judge will let me stay with Mommy sometimes? The question caught him off guard. Has Mommy been talking to you about the hearing tomorrow? Lily nodded. She said she misses me very much and wants me to stay at her new house sometimes. Dominic carefully controlled his expression. Lily, you know that grown-up things like this are complicated. The judge will decide what's best for everyone. But what do you want? Lily persisted, her innocent question cutting to the heart of the matter. I want you to be safe and happy, Dominic answered truthfully. That's all I've ever wanted. Lily seemed to accept this, returning to her Lego project. But the conversation strengthened Dominic's resolve. Tomorrow would determine whether Vanessa gained the opportunity to disappear with their daughter, or whether her plans would be thwarted once again. Either way, he would be ready. Chapter 8. Checkmate. The courtroom was more crowded than Dominic had expected. Apart from the usual court personnel and their respective legal teams, several reporters sat in the back row. The custody battle between a decorated Navy SEAL and his ex-wife had apparently become newsworthy. Vanessa sat across the aisle, dressed conservatively in a navy blue suit that downplayed her pregnancy, now in its final trimester. She smiled confidently at her attorney, a new hire specializing in high-profile custody cases. Judge Harmon entered, and the proceedings began with opening statements. Vanessa's attorney, Eleanor Winters, presented her client as a reformed woman who had accepted responsibility for her past mistakes and built a stable life in California specifically to maintain a relationship with her daughter. Mrs. Reeves has complied with every court requirement, Winters emphasized. She has attended parenting classes, maintained steady employment, and demonstrated consistent commitment to her daughter's welfare. She is not asking for full custody, merely the opportunity to participate meaningfully in her child's life through a standard shared custody arrangement. Beverly countered with a measured response, acknowledging Vanessa's compliance with court orders but emphasizing the seriousness of her previous attempted abduction. Your Honor, we cannot overlook the fact that just 6 months ago, Mrs. Reeves and her partner conspired to take Lily Reeves out of the country using fraudulent identities. While we appreciate the steps she has taken since then, recent evidence suggests her intentions may not have changed. Judge Harmon's expression remained neutral as she invited Vanessa to testify first. On the stand, Vanessa presented herself as remorseful and reformed. I made a terrible mistake, she admitted, her voice wavering appropriately. I was emotional, confused about my marriage, and afraid of losing my daughter. But I've worked hard to turn my life around. Moving to California was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I did it to be near Lily. And your relationship with Jeffrey Reeves? Judge Harmon asked. Over, Vanessa stated firmly. I realized that relationship was part of the problem. I'm focusing solely on being a good mother now. When questioned about her finances, Vanessa explained that the money for her move had come from her parents, a direct contradiction to the evidence Dominic had gathered about the Darius connection. During cross-examination, Beverly approached the stand with a tablet displaying the photos of Vanessa's dinner with Darius. Mrs. Reeves, do you recognize this man? Beverly asked, showing her the image. Vanessa hesitated, her composure slipping momentarily. He looks familiar, but I can't place him. Let me refresh your memory. This is Victor Darius, a private investigator with known connections to international child abduction cases. You had dinner with him 3 nights ago at the Westgate Hotel. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Vanessa's attorney objected immediately. Your Honor, this is the first we're hearing of these allegations. This evidence wasn't shared during discovery. It was only obtained this week, Beverly countered. And it's directly relevant to Mrs. Reeves's credibility and intentions. Judge Harmon overruled the objection but instructed Beverly to provide the evidence to opposing counsel immediately. Mrs. Reeves, Beverly continued, financial records show that you received $250,000 from a shell company traced back to Mr. Darius. Would you like to revise your earlier statement about your parents funding your move to California? Vanessa glanced at her attorney, clearly rattled. There must be some mistake. And this envelope he passed to you during dinner, what did it contain? It was just business cards. For networking. I've been looking for tutoring clients to supplement my income. The explanation sounded hollow even to Vanessa herself. As Beverly continued her dismantling of Vanessa's testimony, Dominic watched his ex-wife's confident facade crumble. When it was Dominic's turn to testify, he presented a stark contrast. Calm, forthright, and focused on Lily's welfare rather than attacking Vanessa. Staff Sergeant Reeves, Judge Harmon asked, if evidence had not been discovered about Mrs. Reeves's continued connection to Mr. Darius, would you have considered a modified custody arrangement? Dominic considered the question carefully. Your Honor, I've never wanted to keep Lily from her mother. Despite everything that happened, I believe children need both parents. But my primary responsibility is keeping my daughter safe. As long as there's evidence suggesting Vanessa might try to take her again, I can't in good conscience support unsupervised visits. The answer seemed to resonate with Judge Harmon, who nodded slightly. After testimony concluded, the judge called a brief recess before rendering her decision. In the hallway, Dominic stood with Beverly, discussing final strategy. She's cornered, Beverly observed. Her credibility is shot. Which makes her more dangerous, Dominic replied. People are most unpredictable when they're desperate. When court reconvened, Judge Harmon delivered her ruling. This court has considered all testimony and evidence presented today. Mrs. Reeves has indeed complied with court requirements regarding supervised visitation. However, her continued association with individuals connected to child abduction cases, combined with unexplained financial transactions and misleading testimony, raises serious concerns about her intentions. Vanessa's face had gone pale as the judge continued. Therefore, the current custody arrangement will remain in place for an additional 6 months. Supervised visitation will continue as previously ordered. Furthermore, Mrs. Reeves is ordered to disclose all communication with Victor Darius and to provide complete financial records to the court within 14 days. The ruling was a definitive victory, But Dominic felt no satisfaction, only relief that Lily would remain protected. As they exited the courthouse, reporters surged forward with questions. Dominic declined comment, guiding his parents and Lily through the crowd to their waiting car. He caught a glimpse of Vanessa standing alone on the courthouse steps, her expression a mixture of defeat and simmering rage. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, a silent acknowledgement that the battle between them was far from over. That evening, as they celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, Dominic's phone buzzed with a text from Caleb. Darius checked out of hotel. Headed to airport. Under surveillance. Another message followed moments later. Vanessa just entered her apartment building. Appears emotional. Placed multiple calls en route, tracking recipients. Dominic turned his attention back to Lily, who was chattering excitedly about an upcoming school field trip to the zoo. Her innocence amid the tension of their situation struck him forcefully. She deserved a childhood untainted by custody battles and betrayal. Later, after putting Lily to bed, Dominic checked in with the security team monitoring Vanessa's movements. Everything seemed quiet, too quiet for his comfort. His instincts proved correct. At 2:17 a.m., his phone rang. Caleb. She's on the move, his friend reported. Left her apartment with 2 suitcases 20 minutes ago. Airport bound. Dominic was already moving, checking the security system and confirming Lily was safe in her bed. Alone? Affirmative. But she's made 3 calls to Jeff in the past hour. Stay on her. I'll alert Beverly to file emergency motions in the morning if needed. By dawn, the situation had escalated. Vanessa had boarded a red-eye flight to Miami, where she was met by Jeff. Caleb's team had tracked them to a marina where a private yacht was docked, registered to one of Darius's shell companies. They're running, Dominic concluded during an emergency call with Beverly. The court ruling pushed them to accelerate their timeline. Without Lily, Beverly pointed out. That's significant. They may be fleeing prosecution rather than attempting abduction at this point. Or regrouping to try again later, Dominic countered. Either way, this violates the court's orders. Vanessa was required to remain in the jurisdiction and disclose her finances. I'll file for permanent sole custody immediately, Beverly assured him. With this evidence, Judge Harmon will likely rule in your favor. True to her word, Beverly secured an emergency hearing that afternoon. With Vanessa absent and evidence of her flight presented to the court, Judge Harmon granted Dominic permanent sole custody of Lily, with any future visitation by Vanessa to be determined by the court based on her compliance with multiple conditions. It should have felt like victory. Yet as Dominic left the courthouse with the custody order in hand, he felt only a hollow sadness for what might have been, a normal family, untainted by betrayal. His phone rang. Commander Thorne. Reeves, thought you should know. Interpol just flagged Jeffrey and Vanessa Reeves attempting to enter the Cayman Islands with questionable documentation. They've been detained pending investigation. The final piece clicked into place. They were going after the money. Looks that way, Thorne confirmed. Darius set them up with offshore accounts. Apparently, they decided cash was more important than another attempt at taking your daughter. Dominic absorbed this information, relief washing through him. Thank you for letting me know, sir. You handled this by the book, Staff Sergeant. Kept your head when most men wouldn't have. That's what makes you SEAL material. That evening, as Dominic tucked Lily into bed, she asked the question he'd been dreading. Daddy, is Mommy coming for her visit this weekend? He sat on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. No, sweetheart. Mommy had to go away for a while. Because she did something bad? Children's perceptiveness never ceased to amaze him. Yes, but that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Lily considered this, her young mind processing complex adult realities. Will she come back someday? I don't know, Dominic answered honestly. But no matter what happens, you'll always have me. I promise. Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with this assurance. Can we have pancakes for breakfast tomorrow? The simple request, so normal amid the chaos of recent events, made him smile. Absolutely. With chocolate chips. As Lily drifted off to sleep, Dominic stood at her window, looking out at the ocean. The investigation into Vanessa and Jeff would continue. There would be criminal charges, court appearances, and likely attempts at negotiation. But for now, in this moment, his daughter was safe. The storm had passed, and for a Navy SEAL who had weathered war zones and betrayal, that was enough. Chapter 9, Aftermath. 1 year later, Dominic stood on the beach behind their home, watching Lily chase waves as they rolled onto the shore. Her laughter carried on the breeze, a sound that never failed to heal something broken inside him. "Don't go too deep, princess," he called, though she was well within safe distance. At 6, Lily had grown remarkably in the past year, taller, more articulate, and surprisingly resilient. The court-appointed therapist had marveled at her adjustment to the changes in her life. Children, she had explained, often adapt better than adults, especially when provided stability and love. Dominic had worked tirelessly to provide both, balancing his duties at the BUD/S training facility with attentive parenting. His commanding officers had been surprisingly supportive, allowing flexible scheduling when possible and connecting him with other single-parent service members for mutual support. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Beverly, plea deal finalized. Vanessa, 18 months, 5 years probation. Jeff, 24 months, 5 years probation. No contact with Lily until she's 18 unless approved by court and requested by Lily. The news brought a complex mixture of emotions. The legal battle was finally over. Vanessa and Jeff had been extradited from the Cayman Islands and faced multiple charges: fraud, attempted child abduction, perjury, and financial crimes related to their offshore accounts. The plea deal was lighter than Dominic had expected, but he hadn't opposed it. Extending the legal proceedings would only prolong the disruption to Lily's life. Better to have closure and move forward. He typed back, "Thank you for everything." Beverly's response came quickly, "She's a special kid. You did right by her." Dominic pocketed his phone, returning his attention to Lily, who was now building an elaborate sand fortress at the water's edge. "Need some help with that?" he asked, crouching beside her. "It needs a moat," Lily decided, her face serious with architectural consideration. "Every good fortress does," Dominic agreed, beginning to dig around the perimeter. As they worked together, Dominic reflected on the journey of the past 18 months. The betrayal had nearly destroyed him, awakening a darkness he hadn't known existed within him. In those first days after discovering Vanessa and Jeff's relationship, he had contemplated actions that would have crossed lines no man should cross. What had saved him, ultimately, was Lily. Every decision, every action had been filtered through a single question: what kind of father did he want to be for her? Not a man consumed by vengeance, but one guided by principle and love. The Navy SEALs had taught him discipline, strategy, and controlled aggression. Those skills had served him well during the custody battle. But fatherhood had taught him something equally valuable: that true strength often lay in restraint rather than action. "Daddy, look!" Lily pointed excitedly as a dolphin broke the surface of the water in the distance. "I see it." Dominic smiled, remembering how fascinated she had been by dolphins at the aquarium during those tense days after his return from Afghanistan. So much had changed since then. Their house in Virginia had been sold, the proceeds split according to their divorce settlement. Dominic's parents visited regularly from Montana, providing the extended family support Lily needed. He had even begun dating occasionally. Nothing serious, just coffee or dinner with women he met through friends or work. Life had achieved a new normal, one built on the ruins of betrayal, but somehow stronger for having weathered the storm. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Dominic sat on his porch with a glass of bourbon, watching the stars emerge over the Pacific. His phone rang. "Commander Thorne." "How'd the kid take the news?" Thorne asked without preamble. "She doesn't know yet," Dominic replied. "I'll talk to her this weekend, with her therapist's help." "Wise move," Thorne approved. "And you? How are you taking it?" Dominic considered the question honestly. "I'm at peace with it. They'll serve their time." Justice was served. "Justice," Thorne repeated thoughtfully. "Interesting concept. Sometimes I wonder if true justice exists outside philosophy books." "Maybe not," Dominic agreed. "But what we got is close enough." After ending the call, Dominic checked the security system, a habit he maintained despite the diminished threat. The cameras showed nothing unusual, just the quiet street and darkened beach. He was about to head inside when his phone buzzed with an email notification. The sender was unexpected: Jeffrey Reeves. Dominic hesitated before opening it. The court had permitted limited written communication through attorneys, mainly for financial and legal matters related to their divorce and the criminal cases. The message was brief. "Dom, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe anything I say. but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry, not just for the affair or the pregnancy, but for everything that came after. The lies, the plans to take Lily, all of it. Vanessa and I were toxic together. We brought out the worst in each other. That's not an excuse, just a realization I've had sitting in this cell. I won't contact Lily. She deserves better than what I could offer her. But I wanted you to know that I recognize the damage I caused. To her, to you, to our family. You were always the better man, even when we were kids. The straight arrow. I used to resent it. Now I understand why you made the choices you did. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that you won. Not just the legal battle, but the moral one too. Jeff. Dominic read the email twice before closing it without responding. Perhaps someday he would find it in himself to reply, but not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too profound. The next morning brought a sense of new beginning. Dominic had taken the day off to help Lily prepare for her school's father-daughter dance. They had appointments for haircuts and then lunch at her favorite restaurant. Do you think my new dress is pretty enough? Lily asked anxiously as they drove into town. The prettiest, Dominic assured her. All the other dads will be jealous that I have the most beautiful daughter. Lily giggled at this, her worries momentarily forgotten. As they walked from the car to the salon, Lily's small hand in his, Dominic found himself reflecting on an old SEAL instructor's words. The true measure of a warrior isn't how he fights his enemies, but how he protects what he loves. By that measure, he had succeeded. Despite everything, the betrayal, the custody battle, the criminal proceedings, Lily was thriving. She was happy, secure, and loved. And in the end, wasn't that the only victory that truly mattered? Later that night, after the dance, Dominic carried a sleeping Lily from the car to her bedroom. She had danced until exhaustion overtook her, insisting on just one more song, until her eyes could barely stay open. As he tucked her in, she stirred slightly. Did I fall asleep, Daddy? Just resting your eyes, he said softly. She smiled drowsily. It was the best night ever. It sure was, Princess. Daddy. Her voice was fading as sleep reclaimed her. I'm glad you're my daddy. Me too, Lily, he whispered, emotion catching in his throat. Me too. After she was settled, Dominic stood on the porch again, listening to the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. The moon cast a silver path across the water, a road leading to horizons unknown. His phone buzzed with a text from one of his SEAL teammates. Team reunion next month. You in? Dominic smiled, typing his response. Wouldn't miss it. Life continued. Not the life he had planned or expected, but one he had fought for and won. A life built not on the ashes of betrayal, but on the foundation of love for his daughter. In the Navy SEALs, they had a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. The road ahead would hold challenges. Raising Lily alone, navigating her questions about her mother as she grew older, balancing career and fatherhood. But Dominic Reeves had weathered war zones and betrayal. He had faced the worst and emerged stronger. Whatever came next, he would meet it with the same determination and principle that had guided him through the darkest days. As he looked out at the endless horizon where sky met ocean, Dominic felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. Not just for survival or justice, but for genuine happiness. The storm had passed, and in its wake, something unexpected had blossomed, the promise of a future unmarred by the shadows of the past. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.